Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video where today we are here for the finale of Season 4 of the F122 My Team Career Mode. Yes, 21 races and it's all come down to this. George Russell versus myself. We've been here before. George Russell is yet to go into the final race of a championship with a fight for the crown. But yeah, we've got a little bit of experience. Not positive experience from last year's Grand Prix in Abu Dhabi. But quickly though, before we have a look at the championship permutations, I just want to say a massive thank you to all of you for the continued support on the channel. Of course, trying to hit 100k before the real life F1 2023 season begins. So make sure you click that big red button down below. But yeah, championship wise then, 1 point between myself and George as we head to the Brazilian Grand Prix. Of course, we have got a sprint race today as well, but really it's just going to come down to whoever beats the other one here in Brazil will walk away with a Formula 1 championship crown. Of course, it is the fight between both of us for our first world title here on F122. Of course, George almost won it back in Season 2 of this career mode. Unfortunately, had a nightmare in Brazil before the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix finale. And then, of course, yeah, we missed out last season by just a single point to Valtteri Bottas. But it is going to be one of our cars that will be walking away with the championship. I suppose we've just got to get on with it then and get into qualifying for the most important race we'll do in this series up to now. Right, we're immediately jumping into Q3 here from Sao Paulo, and already the Sao Paulo weather might be able to change things up this weekend. Looks like we've got about 5 minutes before the rain arrives here on Friday evening. I'm taking it that seriously. I've actually driven out of the pit lane, which normally I don't bother doing in this series, but often you find you lose a bit of time if you just let the game take you around the circuit. So we've actually driven out of the pits here, ready to go for what might be a one-shot Banzai qualifying lap. Unfortunately, can't seem to take much more fuel out of it, but I feel like, yeah, if the rain is going to arrive quite soon, which the game believes it is, it might even arrive on our lap. It might be a case of whoever got out there first has got a big advantage, which we need, because George Russell, as always, seems to be a bit quicker on Friday evening. But you never quite know what the weather's going to do here around Sao Paulo, but this needs to be a championship-worthy qualifying lap. Through the final hairpin, but so far the lap's been pretty clean and tidy as we ran out of the final corner. Barely takes more than 60 seconds a lap around the Austrian Grand Prix circuit, but J4 Chess, it's a 106.1. We aren't going to match that. We only set a 106.5 there. Puts us 3/10 back. Esteban Ocon able to split us, but now I just want to see the rain. Now we can see with 6 minutes left on the clock, the rain has arrived, but we're down to 9th place here in qualifying for the Brazilian Grand Prix. Luckily, of course, we've got those extra 12 laps in the sprint, but that has been an absolute disaster to kickstart the weekend then. I didn't feel that lap was that bad, but clearly the likes of Alpine, Mercedes, Ferrari, and even, of course, our teammate George Russell there, Red Bull as well, have just brought the pace this weekend. I've got no idea where George is, but that has been an absolute disaster. We're not going to be able to improve on that time. Of course, there's already raindrops now appearing on the visor, but P9 at the end of qualifying here in Sao Paulo. That's one of my worst qualifying sessions, I think, since Suzuka. I've got no idea where we lost 6/10 there to our teammate George Russell, but he is now in prime position to take the sprint race victory here from Sao Paulo. We're going to have to push like crazy and try and use this car's extra pace in the race over a lot of our competitors here, but this sprint race, I don't know now whether we really want it or really don't. Let's get into it though. Saturday sprint race for the final time here of Season 4.
Welcome to today's sprint. This is shaping up to be another fantastic weekend. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting sprint. What a qualifying yesterday for George Russell. He'll start today's race from pole position with Charles Leclerc alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Perez, Théo Pourchaire, Valtteri Bottas and Norris, Gasly, Ocon, Mr. Monaco and Guan Yu Zhou, Ricciardo, Tsunoda, Oscar Piastri and Latifi, Albon, Daruvala, Robert Schwartzman and Daniel Ticktum, Drugovich, Mick Schumacher, Stroll and Kevin Magnussen fills the last spot on the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head trackside for today's sprint.
We're still in with a shot of this driver's title, and it all comes down to this. Now go out there and come back a champion.
Well, it's some big words from Mark, and of course the pressure is now on our shoulders. We have to go with the aggressive strategy here, especially if there is an albeit very, very slim chance that we could get some rain come the end of Saturday's sprint. The championship can't be wrapped up just yet, of course, because there's a lot more points available tomorrow, but it could have huge ramifications, of course. Not only do we need to try and score some points here, but we also need to try and make sure we're starting as high up the order as we can, ready for the main event. Everyone else around us is on mediums by the looks of it, so we should have an advantage in that regard, but of course it's just how long will these soft tyres be quicker for.
So we're expecting rain in about 10 to 15 minutes.
Oh no! Sao Paulo, it always does this. Why, whenever Formula 1 comes here, does the rain start to become unpredictable then? I mean, if it does rain, theoretically, we should have an advantage on the softer compounded tyres, but we know just how ridiculously OP the AI can be in these changeable conditions. This is about to get incredibly interesting. Into all four tyres as we line up on the grid then, of course, an uphill start for most of the cars on the grid here in Sao Paulo, but George Russell sat comfortably at the front. All he's got to do is just lead the way here today, and if we can't beat him, he will go into the final race of the year with the lead of the championship. But waiting then on those 5 red lights here in Sao Paulo. Lights out and away we go, really trying to modulate the wheel spin as best as possible there. Ricciardo will get past us on the, sorry, Zhou Guan Yu even will get past us on the run towards Stamon. We've got someone going for a big dive bomb down the inside there. I think that was an AlphaTauri car. As we get around the outside of a handful of cars, it was Yuki Tsunoda. So we've actually gained a place then off the start of this Grand Prix. But it looks like Russell's gone backwards. It looks like Charles Leclerc then leads the way as we head down the Assetto Corsa on lap 1. There's still scrapping going on behind him there, but Sergio Perez, I think, no, that's Théo Pourchaire into P2. George Russell straight down into P3 then of the Brazilian Grand Prix sprint race. So not the start our teammate would have wanted here. And has that suddenly given us extra hope, a little bit of extra belief early on in this race? We've still got a long old weekend to go, but yeah, we've gained places for once, and George Russell has actually lost some as we're trying to look for moves around the outside of Pierre Gasly. Like I said, this weekend, we can absolutely take no prisoners. We've got to go for it at any given opportunity as we round our way out of the final corner there, try and get on the power as early as possible. Let's see just how much aero the rest of the field are running there. As you can see, we are gaining ever so slightly on Pierre Gasly as Charles Leclerc leads the way then at the end of lap 1, but to the inside of Pierre. Whoa, I knew he was going to turn in on me there. I can absolutely tell, so he had to let off the brake to make sure he didn't spin me. Why do the AI still do that on F122? We've quite clearly gone to the inside of the Frenchman there, and he just thinks, yeah, I'll turn in anyway. But up to P7 then as we head back down the hill. Let's try and close up on Checo.
Radar suggests weather's going to hit in around 5 minutes.
No.
So stay on your toes.
The rain's going to arrive apparently before the end of this Grand Prix, so it could get really, really difficult towards the end of this one. We've only got about 10 minutes left of racing, but it could be a very, very slippery final few laps here in Brazil. We know now on F122 that the game, or the crew even, Mark, they do not like to make the call too early on this game. Often it's worth boxing before the team believe you should. There was a 107.7 that time round. We're not far away from the times we set in qualifying yesterday. Mega pace coming out by everyone early on, but it really looks like Red Bull, Charles Leclerc and Lando Norris have brought the pace this weekend. They're Valtteri Bottas even in the mix, so it might not be as plain sailing as either George Russell or I thought it would be. We are really pushing. We are really pushing this car to its absolute limit at the moment. But we can just see George Russell at the road. He isn't making much of an impact either. We're both stuck behind a Red Bull. Oh, yellow flag's out. One of the Alfa Romeos at the rear of the field going slowly. Don't really think that's going to change all too much this afternoon. Disappointing start to the weekend for them. Probably not going to mean they start much further back than they would have anyway. Robert Schwartzman out of the Grand Prix. And unfortunately, of course, we've just gone fastest, but no bonus point available for fastest lap in the sprint race. So we need to try and get a run on Checo Perez to make sure that we're scoring an extra point here. If things were to finish as they are, George Russell would score 6 points. I would only score 2. You go into the final race of the year with a 3-point lead. All over the back of Checo Perez, we've got to dive it. Whoa, big send at the top of the hill there. Don't often see overtakes through that part of the circuit, but we are so much quicker than the AI through this higher downforce stuff that we've just got to go for it because we don't get much opportunity. Back down in towards turn 1 there. Valtteri Bottas now, of course, will be giving up his Formula 1 World Championship come tomorrow evening, but we still don't know who he's going to be giving it up to. Or Bottas might have to prepare himself for a similar move to what Checo Perez received just a couple of laps ago, I'm hoping. And again, try and get to the inside. Whoa! That was... I mean, there was no contact in it, but Bottas... That was more like real-life Valtteri Bottas, having to jump out of the way of another car, but we made it through. We're over to P5 then. That was brave. That one, I don't do moves like that very often on F122, but when I do, they often don't go that well either. But Lando Norris, of course, won't have any DRS to defend himself, but I think with 3 laps to go, P4 might be the best we can get. Oh, there's the flash. The rain has arrived. 3 laps to go here in Sao Paulo. Now it might be a question of, can we just hang on? Around in the final corner then to start the last lap of the sprint race here from Brazil. And Lando Norris, perhaps that, like I said, the rain often gives the AI a small advantage here on F122. They, of course, have just got built-in traction control, which I'm only a man, I can't quite match. But are we going to be able to try and find a way around the Alpine car as we wind our way through turn 1 and turn 2 there? You can see, whoa, big snap of oversteer as we run very wide out of the centre S there, somehow just about able to hang on to the car and keep the foot in, but that's going to push us even further back as we head down the hill. And now it might be a case of just take what we've got, bring home P5 in this sprint race here. It is going to shift the championship lead back once more. George Russell came to this weekend 1 point back. He might leave it. Well, sorry, he might go into Sunday, 1 point in front there. It looks like one of the Aston Martins had issues. Kevin Magnussen, of course, last year's real-life pole sitter here in Sao Paulo, out now of the sprint race in pretty similar to fashion to how he... No, that was the main race, wasn't it? He got taken out by Daniel Ricciardo on lap 1. But just make sure that we keep Bottas at bay then to round these final couple of corners. Unfortunately, yeah, I don't know whether the rain had enough of an effect on things, but I certainly wasn't able to stay close to Lando Norris towards the end. Bottas luckily won't get close enough, and George Russell will reclaim the lead of the title.
And that's the end of the race. We'll see you in Parc Ferme.
So let's see what effect this result has had on the drivers' standings. George Russell takes the lead in the Drivers' Championship after today's superb result. With that result, the sport's newest team can no longer be touched at the top of the table. What an incredible journey this has been for a team many had written off a short time ago. They are the Formula 1 World Champions. Well, that wraps up the sprint. All that remains is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then.
Well, here we go. One more race left of the F122 My Team career mode. And you can see sprint race results. Charles Leclerc takes the win ahead of Théo Pourchaire and George Russell there. I have no idea, like I said, how George lost those couple of places at the start, but it does mean the points tally has shifted. It's still 1 point lead in the title fight, but now it is in George Russell's favour. The main event tomorrow, it is all about who can outfinish the other driver there. Of course, we had a bit of an advantage starting and doing the sprint race on those soft compounded tyres. Luckily, I think we've carried over an extra set of softs into the sprint race that we were able to use there, so shouldn't mess things around too much in the strategy come race day Sunday. But thank you all so much for watching this sprint race. I'm doing this like it's an outro to a video. Let's get into it. It's the final race of the year, of course, bumper sprint race main event episode once more. Let's do this thing. Let's walk away a champion.
Formula One returns to Interlagos once again with the stage set for what promises to be another classic Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel famously clinched his third championship here in 2012, and just 4 years later, Max Verstappen treated us to one of the finest wet weather drives of all time. It's an unusual anti-clockwise race here at Interlagos, where the Sao Paulo locals are packed into the grandstands at each of the 15 corners around this classic 2.7-mile circuit. Two very fast sections bookend the famous and highly technical Sector 2, where getting a good run out of Junsao into one of the two DRS zones will be key to any overtaking prospects today. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, and Théo Pourchaire completes the front row. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Russell, Norris, Mr. Monaco, and Bottas, Perez, Gasly, Ocon, and Guan Yu Zhou, Ricciardo, Latifi, Jehan Daruvala, and Albon, Oscar Piastri, Tictum, Felipe Drugovich, and Yuki Tsunoda, Mick Schumacher, Stroll. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty, Magnussen, and Robert Schwartzman. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway. Anthony Day.
So George has got a chance at winning the Drivers' Championship today. I want you to keep out of his way and don't battle him for position, please.
Are you having a laugh, Mark? What? I've never seen anything like that on F122. Apparently, the team have decided this is George's World Championship, and I can't do anything about it here. But having a look then at strategy ready for the Brazilian Grand Prix, of course, the team are suggesting that we do... I mean, surely, softs to mediums is the way to go this afternoon. I do not want to be left stranded on a bot strategy there. Of course, the soft tyres lasted pretty well yesterday during the sprint race. It might be that we make a switch over to the hards, but honestly, I think the mediums are a pretty good tyre as well around this circuit. But George Russell starting directly in front of me then. One final race to decide it all. And it's a complete mix-up on the strategies. Some of us are on softs, some of us are on mediums. This is about to get wild. I'm sure I'm going to say it a lot today, but it's pretty easy between George Russell and I. Effectively, it's just a question of who finishes ahead of the other one. Doesn't really matter what positions we finish in, of course, unless we're way down the roster. But yeah, that's basically the question on both of our minds today. They're trying to get as much heat into those rear compound tyres as we possibly can there. Let's do this thing. The fight for a first world title has got to end here. 5 red lights. And it's lights out, and away we go. Whoa, loads of wheel spin as we try and head down towards turn 1 there. Apologies to Bottas for the contact in towards the first corner, as we're going to have even more contact with Pierre Gasly, and we're just sinking down the order at the start of this Grand Prix there. We get back around the outside of Esteban Ocon, of course, was side by side with him yesterday in the sprint race out of those first couple of corners. But look at the Alpine straight line speed as we head down the Escudo de Lago there. Doesn't look like George Russell has gone forward either then, so clearly both of our cars have really struggled at the start of these GPs there. But Russell already having to go a bit defensive from Sergio Perez there as they head up the hill through turn 5 and turn 6 there. I think of Ferradura around the outside of Pierre Gasly will try. Gives us the inside ready for the next corner, and we will just about squeeze through there. Slam the door on the exit there from the Mercedes driver. But as we round our way through the final couple of turns then of lap 1, we have lost a couple of places, but it is not the end of the world there as we just try and stick close to Bottas out of this final corner. Really struggling to get some grip out of those medium compound tyres, as we'll switch back to the inside as we head, whoa, out of the final corner there. What is it with the AI on F122? But looks like Teo Porcher is taking the lead from Charles Leclerc. Unaware, actually, whether Teo Porcher has ever won a Grand Prix in this series, to be completely honest with you. So could be a first Grand Prix victory for Teo Porcher today. But what we do know for sure is that someone will be crowned a first time ever Formula 1 World Champion. Will it be George? Will it be me? How many times do we think I'm going to say that today? But already looks like Lando Norris is just starting to drop back behind Charles Leclerc and Teo Porcher early on in this Grand Prix. Of course, Sergio Perez won the last race out in Portugal. So Red Bull, yeah, clearly just building up a bit of momentum to finish off this season. Of course, we have got some rule changes ready for Season 5 of this series. Yes, it will absolutely be coming. But I don't think they're going to affect the order too much as we try and get a good run on Checo Perez at the final corner. Of course, couldn't get back past him last weekend in Portimao, but certainly will try down around the outside in towards turn 1. We're pretty even on the brakes with the Red Bull there. He tries to run me out wide, but we'll get the inside for turn 2. We will swoop through back to where we started then in this Grand Prix. And now we have got the one driver. I'm not really too worried about where we finish, as long as we beat this man just in front of me. Apparently, according to Mark, I can't fight him today. We're not listening to Mark. Well, George Russell's definitely got to try and play the long game here in Brazil. Of course, starting on those harder compounded tyres, believes he will have a big advantage later on in the afternoon. But to the outside of our teammate there, you can see just how hard he's pushing me. As no, George Russell actually sends it to the inside of Lando Norris out of turn 2 there. And Lando Norris having to jump out of the way of one of our cars. He might be about to get jumped by the other one. As we head down the Esquina de Largo, we go down the middle. Whoa! That got a bit close for comfort. Contact again between Lando and George there. As it looks like Lando Norris has picked up some front wing damage, but oh, that got really, really scary. Far too early on in the Grand Prix to have something like that going down there, as Lando Norris is definitely, I've seen him with half a front wing. George Russell's going to sit behind him, and we aren't going to be so patient. So we wind our way. You can see George Russell there trying to push me through the next corner, clearly not happy with it. It's like touring car racing between the pair of us as we wind our way through the final, through the middle sector even, I should say. It's only lap 6. Surely we're going to see Lando Norris dive into the pit lane at the end of this lap. Yes, we do there, so we'll take the DRS off him that we can there. But George Russell really hasn't got as much straight line speed, almost 220 miles an hour back down towards the first corner. But Porcher and Leclerc have already built up a 5-second lead there, and it really did just feel like Lando Norris got sort of caught in the crossfire between myself and George there. I didn't expect him to be that aggressive that early on in the Grand Prix, but we need to try and bolt away from our teammate, because he is going to have a huge advantage later on there, as George Russell again is going to try and look to the outside. Oh, we just take a bit too much curb there, as here he goes. Nope, he won't make that one work. We might now be safe. Yellow flag's out. One of the Alfa Romeos with issues. Don't say it's Robert Schwartzman again. Oh, an absolute nightmare this weekend so far. Team already informing me about the tyre life. Of course, George Russell on those mediums should start seeing a bit of an advantage, of course, soon. But we've just got to keep our cool. Reassured to see then, as we come to the end of lap 10, we are actually quicker than Charles Leclerc and Teo Porcher at the moment, dragging Russell and Sergio Perez behind us up towards those front two. But yeah, we're doing alright, and the team want me to already box, but I think we can go a bit longer on this set. Oh, more yellow flags out. Someone else potentially with issues then in this Grand Prix. It looks to be one of the Williams cars. Not too sure which that's going to be. As Charles Leclerc then, first car of the front runners into the pits. It's young Mick Schumacher, who appears to be out of the championship finale here in Sao Paulo. Teo Porcher then into the pit lane, so we are going to inherit the lead of the Grand Prix for the first time today, as you love to see. I've not had much luck around Interlagos in years gone by, but fingers crossed we can get some luck today. Boy, do we need it. At the end of lap 14 then, tyre wear warning light has just flashed up, so we are going to peel into the pits then at the end of this lap. Have been able to extend the stint quite nicely as we head into the pit lane, and George Russell will be now left out in front to try and build up a gap all he can in this Grand Prix that I'm guessing surely he's going to be going hards to the end of the Grand Prix, so it probably won't be too long before he boxes as well in this race. It's probably going to really come down to those final last few laps when the mediums start to hit the cliff that the hards won't. But there goes Pourchaire and Leclerc back out of the front of the field. Yep, so team do think we're going to the end, which is good. But yeah, Pourchaire and Leclerc then also on the medium, so they are going to really struggle towards the end as we've re-emerged just behind our old teammate Oscar Piastri of all people. Eddie wishes he'd stuck around with 2-2 Motorsport now, because we really did hit it off as soon as Perez came into the picture. Not Perez, sorry, Pourchaire even. Oscar Piastri then surely isn't going to put much of a fight up as we round our way out of the final corner. We'll try and take the shortest line back down towards turn 1 there, but clean around the outside of the AlphaTauri car will go. 4 seconds up to Leclerc up the road. Pourchaire, though, has got an even bigger lead of 6 seconds now. Was one of the Red Bulls behind me. That's got to be Sergio Perez then, making a bit of a mistake down at turn 1. Relieves some of the pressure from behind. We got another new fast lap of the day. We never know what might happen later on in the afternoon. That could be game-changing. That fastest lap bonus point. There we go. Russell into the pits at the end of lap 17, so he has basically done half distance on those medium compound tyres. So we will be going hards then to the checkered flag. But will he have got an overcut on me? Surely not. Surely. For the fastest lap last time around, there's Latifi. Oh, beautiful timing. Nicholas the GOAT. You love to see it. 1:07.5. New fast lap of the day there as he gives me all the DRS. But none of the hassle of making the overtake there as George Russell heads back out of the pit lane. He's going to be a bit further back behind us as just one of the McLarens leads the way there. That's going to be Zhou Guanyu into the lead of the Grand Prix, but 18 more laps to go here at Interlagos. 2 seconds, the gap between myself and George. We have got to look after these tyres. There we go, Zhou Guanyu into the pits at the end of lap 18, so has done very, very well on those mediums, but of course we've got to go even further in the second half of this GP, but we are closing in on Leclerc and Pourchaire. Of course, they've got to look after their tyres even more than I do. George Russell, 3 seconds back now. Would be nice to put at least one car between us, though. But of course, I'd love even more. We won last year's finale, but of course didn't take the crown. It was a bit Felipe Massa-esque in that final race. This time round, we want it a bit more, you know, where you win to win your title, like Hamilton Turkey 2020, for example. At the final corner, back to start lap 21 then, all over the back of Charlie Boy, and of course, today, much, much easier to be making overtakes on the AI when they're not in a huge train. I mean, look at that straight line speed. Around the outside of Charles Leclerc, back up in towards turn 1, and we are through and into P2 then, of this Brazilian Grand Prix there. Teo Pourchaire just a second and a half up the road. George Russell, 4 seconds back. Of course, we've been helped by the DRS quite a lot, but this is just, for now, falling into place. On to romp up to the back of Teo Pourchaire as well in this Grand Prix. I've not felt this confident in the car all weekend up until this pit stop. Once we bolted on these medium tyres, I've felt very, very comfortable in this car as to the outside of our former teammate Teo Pourchaire. He runs himself way too deep in towards turn 1 there, but we'll try and get back over to the apex. I could just see that gap was closing at a rapid rate of knots there. And of course we have got a lot more to lose than gain as we head down the outside of Teo in towards turn 4. Again he's going to try, but this time around we get the car to the inside there and we are into the lead of the Brazilian Grand Prix with just 1/3 race distance to go. Now we've just got to maintain it.
Gap to your teammate behind is 5.2 seconds.
Oh, 1/4 distance left here in Sao Paulo. I can't lie. Every single time Mark comes over the radio with a message, I panic so much that they're going to tell me there's a fault with the car. That would be just my luck on F122. We've had so many mechanical failures this year. The fact we're even in this title fight with George Russell is a miracle in itself. I think we've had 5 to our teammates 1. I know he's had a couple of other mechanical gremlins over the course of the campaign, but we have had so much bad luck with engine failures in comparison that I just don't want another one here. This was one thing I was hoping I wouldn't have to deal with in this afternoon's Grand Prix, but that is back markers for exactly that reason. So scary on F122. Of course, we almost got, well, we did get hit by Albon back in Mexico a few weekends ago, if you guys remember. That almost had huge implications on the championship, but luckily we're able to keep the car going. But yeah, we're going to have to be so careful around these slower cars later on in the day, because you just never quite know what they're going to do. But that's the first one navigated as George Russell, the gap has really levelled out, and maybe now. He's starting to close in on Pourchaire and Leclerc. Thank you, Sir Lancelot. Greatly appreciated. Now I've got one of the Alfa Romeos, and well, I'm hoping we won't have to lap anyone else, but I'm not convinced yet, as George Russell is definitely now closing in on Pourchaire and Leclerc. So that might be me in 2 laps' time. It's like staring into the future. Dan Tickton, that is such a scary place to let me by. Why would you do it there, as we've got yellow flags out further back? One of the Alpines appears to have issues. I think that might be Esteban Ocon going slowly in this Grand Prix. They're late on in the day. Please don't be a safety car. Ocon out. No safety car. That's good. I do not want one of those late on here. 4 laps to go here, and for the first time today, there's a little part of me that's starting to believe this might happen here on F122. We've just got to wheel this thing around 4 more circuits of Sao Paulo. Thank you, Felipe. I'm amazed. 2 laps to go with this Grand Prix. How well these medium tyres have hung on in there. Looks like Leclerc and Pourchaire might be struggling a little bit more, but of course all of us trying to navigate these lap cars really has spread out this group towards the end of the Grand Prix there as we get around the second Haas of Jay and Aruvula there. Just one more Alfa Romeo for us to try and work our way around, and then we should have clear running to the end of the Brazilian Grand Prix. But it's been a crazy, crazy season here on F122. We kick-started it, of course, back out in the Middle East in Bahrain, where we picked up that mechanical failure. What was it? 5, 6, 7 laps into the Grand Prix? Then, of course, we went out to Saudi, and George Russell had a mechanical failure on the last lap of that Grand Prix. Mercedes power units were not providing us with anywhere near the performance we were expecting from them, as Schwartzman just about stays out through that complex of corners. Of course, we took our first win of the year in Saudi Arabia. George Russell would have absolutely won that one had it not been for that failure. And then we just started trading wins backwards and forwards early on. Of course, we took victory in the Land Down Under, Albert Park, Australia. Finally returned to the top step there. And then, of course, George Russell, we went back to Shanghai. I looped it on the first lap by myself after one of the best qualifying laps I've ever done on F122. We made that mistake lap 1, and then we recovered all the way to P3. We knew the car had a lot of good pace, but we'd still not had a 1-2 early on in the campaign. Round 5, of course, we took that victory. I think we were out at Imola that weekend, weren't we, for round 5 of the campaign. And then we took a win, I'm pretty certain, in Miami. And then went through a huge slump. We got robbed in Baku, where we were going to easily win that Grand Prix. But no, we had an engine failure late on. We obviously had that issue in Barcelona that cost us a potential fight for the win that weekend as well. It took us all the way to Zandvoort before we could get back up on the top step. And it felt like there, the tables had started to turn once more, and we were finally closing in the points on our teammate George Russell. It was Suzuka, 39 points back leaving that weekend, that I thought all hope was lost in the My Team career mode. But George Russell, he's had such a bad run of form late on in the campaign. We clawed it back. We never gave up. I thought we'd have to win all 4 races, but we came P2 in Portugal after a mistake. But round in the final corner here in Sao Paulo, for the first time on F122, we are going to crown ourselves drivers and constructors world champions. Get in there.
Oh, you are my hero! You're my hero! You've done it! All of that work has come down to this, and you are the world champion. Great stuff!
Well, it's certainly been an incredible year for Formula One, and our drivers have all pushed themselves this season, making it one of the most compelling years of racing in history. There can only be one champion, however, and here they are now, our new Formula One World Drivers' Champion. They've done it then. Victory in the last race of the season and the championship as well. What a phenomenal end to a terrific Formula One season. So, Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
I think that smart tyre management on track and very smooth driving definitely assisted in their victory today. That combination meant they got the absolute maximum out of their tyres at all times.
Mr. Monaco takes over the lead of the Drivers' Championship. Let's focus on the driver of the day, Anthony Davidson. Who do you pick?
I have to give it to Mr. Monaco. They fought so hard and had incredible pace at times, so I don't think anyone else did a better job today.
With that result, the sport's newest team can no longer be touched at the top of the table. What an incredible journey this has been for a team many had written off a short time ago. They are the Formula One World Champions. Well, what an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
Well, there we are then, the end of the Brazilian Grand Prix. It's done. We have crowned ourselves Formula One World Champions after the heartbreak that was last season. Honestly, throughout a lot of this campaign, I didn't think we'd be able to do it once again, but somehow George Russell, a really, really bad run of form in those final 4 Grand Prix, of course, finished 4th in the USA, 3rd in Mexico, what was it, 7th? I think I want to say in Portugal last weekend, and 4th here again. He's barely been on the rostrum in these final few Grand Prix there, and that has made the difference, and that has allowed us to claw back that 39-point deficit to walk away with a crown there. Championship-wise, as you can see, 13-point lead as we leave Sao Paulo, 385 points for us over the course of that campaign. They're a very, very good display. That being said, though, George Russell, hats off to him, has run a brilliant season from start to finish there. Charles Leclerc proves why he's so good there, finishing in P3 ahead of Perez and Teo Porcher there. Lando Norris in 6th there on 212 points, you'd love to see it, ahead of Ocon. Bottas, last year's world champion, all the way down in 8th place on 162 there, finishing just ahead of Gasly and Zhou Guanyu, rounding out the top 10 there. Daniel Ricciardo 11th on just, what, 1/3 of the points his teammate was able to score there. Nicholas Latifi, 19 points. When a Mercedes going to drop him? Ahead of Oscar Piastri, Yuki Tsunoda there, and Robert Schwartzman with that 1 point for Alfa Romeo did make the difference there. Albon, Ticktum, Drogovic, Daruvala, Magnussen, Stroll, and Mick Schumacher all failing to score there. Constructors-wise, though, 757 points for ourselves. A dominant display come the end of the year there. Over 300 points clear of Red Bull in P2. Alpine in 3rd ahead of Ferrari and McLaren there. Mercedes in a very lonely P5 ahead of AlphaTauri. Alfa Romeo there with Williams, Haas, and Aston Martin rounding out the Constructors' Championship. But thank you all so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure to leave a like. Get yourself subscribed as well. We will be back for Season 5 of the F1 My Team Career Mode very, very soon. There's big change heading towards this 212 Motorsport organisation. In fact, if you want a hint, go back through USA, Mexico, Portugal, Brazil, and check out the first letter of every episode title from that series. That should give you an inkling of what is happening ready for Season 5. We'll be back with pre-season testing very, very soon. You do not want to miss it. None of these videos would be possible without the help of our channel members, so a massive thank you to all of the names you see on your screens currently for helping support the channel. You can join them by clicking the join button down below, and yeah, thank you once again to everyone that continues all the insane support on my work.